All right, I'm Jason Yarusi of Yarusi Holdings. Welcome back to this week's weekly webinar. So each and every week we bring you great topics, all focused on investing in multifamily. And this week we're going to talk about the process of due diligence when investing in multifamily properties. So before we get started, if you'd like and want to hear more about these weekly webinars, make sure you go down there and hit that follow button, because we're going to bring you great insight into the world of multifamily real estate, whether you're just new to investing or you have experience or you're an experienced real estate investor. So today we're going to talk about the due diligence that occurs once you go under contract, right? Ideally, you've done your legwork up front to find that this is the right opportunity, right? You've found through great networking opportunities, you've underwritten the opportunity, it meets your return expectations, it meets your growth potential expectations, and you've been able to negotiate a price that's going to work for you and the team to make sure this is the right deal for you and your investors. So now you have the deal under contract, and we're going to focus on really three buckets. There's the environmental, the fiscal, and the financial. So before, when you're underwriting the deal, typically you're not going to get bank statements, you're not going to get tax returns, you're not going to be exposed or usually have available at that point when you're just negotiating out the contract. Most sellers are going to stand back and not want to be providing that information, right? So your goal here is, once you do go under contract, is to go through and make sure that the information you've been provided pre-acquisition or pre-contract stage is actually true to nature, right? So do bank statements show the actual deposit they're claiming they're collecting for rent? What are the expenses coming in? Do they match up from what you had through the trailing 12 financials? Ultimately, looking at leases, what is the lease exposure? So is the lease exposure matching up to the tenant profile that you expected on this property? So understanding that puts you in the best position to analyze the right documents to make sure that you are buying what you expected based on your original analysis. Next is going to be the fiscal. You are going to do a site inspection. Now, this will both be exterior and interior. Now, you and your team, hopefully you will have your property manager and contractors and inspectors there to analyze these buildings. Some big ticket items, of course: sewer lines, roofs, facade, foundation. Those are going to be some big exterior items that you want to make sure are in good working order. Past that, the interiors, right? So it's going to be electrical, plumbing, HVAC, right? What are your exposure there? And just the condition of units. Based on your expectation through your underwriting, you've now analyzed these deals with a faction here that you've placed a portion or a amount into the capital expenditures. This is going to be my construction budget. So as you do this inspection, are you finding, when you inspect, that you're basically finding the building that you thought you were going to, or do you either have to go back there and adjust your CapEx budget, either up or down? There's always the opportunity that you find that you actually have a better deal than you thought. That's happened to me in the past. Or that what has been expressed to you or what has been presented to you on paper or through the conversations or just based on your limited walk of the property originally does not stand up to what you actually find during that due diligence. And you may have to go back there with some talk on price negotiation or term negotiation with the seller, or ultimately walk away from the deal. And the last is going to be your environmental inspection. This will be your phase one, your other things to make sure that there's not any exposure from an environmental standpoint. So was there a past gas station on the property? And potentially there could be an oil spill, right? We once had a property, went through a phase one, and about three doors down, or call it 3 lots down, there used to be an old gas station, and I believe there was an oil spill, and there was a cleanup, and then we had to make sure through drilling that there was not any exposure to us, and this was a bank request. Ended up there was not. However, at that point, that was a hurdle that we wanted to make sure we went over, so we didn't have future exposure that could put us and our deal and our investors at risk. Next, are we in a flood zone? Are these other things that can create environmental exposure to the property, right? Do we have exposure to flooding or tornadoes or wind risk, right? So where's our exposure on that side? So notably, when we look at this, we want to look at those 3 buckets: physical, financial, and environmental. And if you can make sure you have focus and set allocations into those 3 buckets, you can make sure you're putting yourself in the best place to find the best opportunity and be able to perform on the opportunity based on what you're buying. All right, so again, I'm Jason Yarusi of Yarusi Holdings. This is this week's weekly webinar. Thank you so much for always diving in. Make sure you go down there and hit that follow button, because each and every week we come back to talk to you about all things multifamily. Let's go.